I watched my father walk away when I was 15. He chose his new wife over me. 3 years later, I stood at the Met Gala entrance in a dress that cost more than his house. The woman holding my hand? She could ruin him with one phone call, and tonight, she would. But here's what nobody knew. She wasn't just my mentor. She was the woman my father betrayed 10 years ago, and I was about to help her destroy everything he'd built. Oh, and one more thing. The biggest secret of all was about to come out, and it would shatter everything I thought I knew about my own life. Before we begin, if you've ever felt abandoned by someone who was supposed to protect you, hit that subscribe button. This story gets intense, and you won't want to miss what happens next. Now, let me take you back to where it all started. My 15th birthday should have been special. Instead, it became the night my entire world collapsed. I remember sitting at our dining table, staring at the cake Mom and I used to make together every year. Except Mom wasn't there anymore. She'd died 6 months earlier, and I was still trying to figure out how to breathe without her. Dad walked in 2 hours late. I'd gotten used to that, but this time, he wasn't alone. "Camilla, this is Monica," he said, his hand resting on her belly, her very pregnant belly. I felt my stomach drop. "Dad." "What?" Monica smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Surprise! You're going to be a big sister." I looked at my father, waiting for him to explain, to tell me this was some kind of sick joke. He wouldn't meet my eyes. "Monica's carrying my son," he said quietly. "We're getting married next month." "Mom died 6 months ago." The words exploded out of me. 6 months! "Your mother's gone, Camilla." Monica's voice was ice cold. "It's time for your father to move forward. We all need to move forward." "You're disgusting," I whispered. "Both of you." The slap came so fast I didn't see it coming. My father's hand connected with my cheek, and the room went silent. I touched my face, feeling the sting, feeling something break inside me that would never be fixed. "Don't you dare speak to Monica like that," Dad said, his voice shaking with rage. "She's going to be your mother now." "She'll never be my mother," I screamed. Monica stood up, her hand protectively over her belly. "Samuel, I won't raise my son around a disrespectful brat. It's her or us. You need to choose." I watched my father's face, watched him actually consider it, and then he said the words that would haunt me forever. "Pack your bags, Camilla. You're going to your Aunt Rosa's house." I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. "Dad, please." I said, "Pack your bags." That night, while I threw my life into 2 suitcases, I heard them arguing in the kitchen. I crept to the hallway, pressing myself against the wall. "Did you tell her the truth?" Monica's voice was sharp. "Are you crazy? She can never know. That her mother didn't just die? That you—" "Shut up! Walls have ears, Monica." I felt ice run through my veins. What did she mean my mother didn't just die? Mom had a heart attack. That's what Dad told me. That's what everyone said. But the way Monica said it, the way Dad silenced her so quickly, something was very, very wrong. Aunt Rosa's apartment was tiny, dark, and smelled like cheap wine. She opened the door, looked at me with tired eyes, and sighed. "I can barely feed myself, Camilla." "Please," I begged. "I have nowhere else." "Your father sent $200. That's it. Make it last." $200. I found out later that Dad's company had just doubled its profits. He was making millions. And he sent me $200. Rosa wasn't cruel, but she wasn't kind either. She drank too much, worked 2 jobs, and made it clear I was a burden. After 2 months, the money ran out. Rosa came home drunk one night and told me I had to leave. "I can't do this anymore, kid. You're on your own." At 15 years old, I found myself sleeping in parks, washing up in public restrooms, eating whatever I could find. I kept thinking about my mother, about the strange conversation I'd overheard. I wanted answers, but I was too focused on surviving to look for them. Then, on a cold October evening, everything changed. I was sitting on a park bench, trying to stay warm, when a sleek silver car pulled up. The window rolled down, and a woman with sharp eyes and expensive jewelry looked at me. "You're Samuel Fernandez's daughter," she said. It wasn't a question. I stared at her. "How do you know?" "Get in. We need to talk." Every instinct told me not to trust her, but I was cold, hungry, and desperate. I got in the car. She drove to a penthouse apartment that overlooked the entire city. The place was filled with fashion magazines, designer sketches, and photographs of models on runways. "My name is Helena Rodriguez," she said, pouring herself wine. "Does that name mean anything to you?" I shook my head. "Your father and I were business partners. 10 years ago, we were going to revolutionize the fashion industry together." She opened a drawer and pulled out old contracts, photographs of her and my father shaking hands at events. "Then your father stole everything, my designs, my clients, my entire future." "I don't understand why you're telling me this." "He built his empire on my work, Camilla. He made sure I couldn't prove anything, destroyed my reputation. I lost everything." Her eyes were hard, glittering with old rage. "But I rebuilt, slowly, carefully, and now I'm more powerful than he could ever imagine." "Why are you telling me this?" I asked again. Helena set down her wine and looked at me directly. "Because you're the key to destroying him." "I'm nobody. I'm homeless. No," she interrupted. "You're his heir. You're his daughter, and I'm going to make you so powerful, so famous, so untouchable that he'll beg for your forgiveness. And then, when he's on his knees, we'll take everything from him." I should have said no, should have walked away. But then Helena leaned forward and said something that changed everything. "Don't you want to know what really happened to your mother?" My heart stopped. "You know something?" "I know everything. But first, you need to become someone he can't ignore, someone with power. Are you ready to transform?" I looked at this strange woman who seemed to hate my father as much as I did, who knew secrets about my mother's death, who was offering me a path to revenge. "Yes," I whispered, "I'm ready." Helena wasn't kidding about the transformation. Within days, I was enrolled in modeling classes, working with photographers, learning to walk, pose, and command attention. It was brutal. I cried more in those first few months than I had since Mom died, but Helena was always there, pushing me harder. "You want revenge? Then earn it. Beauty isn't enough. You need presence. You need power." 6 months into my training, I did my first real photo shoot. When I saw the images, I barely recognized myself. The broken, abandoned girl was gone. In her place was someone fierce, someone beautiful, someone who looked like she could conquer the world. "That's the face that will destroy your father," Helena said, smiling. Over the next 2 years, my career exploded. Magazine covers, fashion weeks in Paris and Milan, designers fighting to dress me. I became someone people recognized, someone with influence. But Helena and I never forgot the real goal. One evening, 2 years into this new life, Helena called me to her office. She had a thick folder on her desk. "It's time you knew the truth about your mother." My hands trembled as she opened the folder. Inside was my mother's death certificate. "Heart attack," I read. "I know. I was there when—" "Your mother was 38 years old, Camilla. Athletic, healthy, no history of heart problems." Helena pulled out medical records. "She died 2 days after confronting your father about Monica." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying the timing is very interesting." She pulled out another document. "Monica worked at the hospital where your mother died. She was a nurse." The room spun. "No. Your mother found out Monica was pregnant while your father was still married. She was going to expose everything. And then, suddenly, she has a fatal heart attack. In the hospital where Monica worked." "You think Monica killed her?" I could barely say the words. "I think Monica had access to medications. I think she had motive. And I think your father either knew or suspected and chose to do nothing." I felt rage unlike anything I'd ever experienced. "Can we prove it?" "Not yet, but I have investigators working on it. There's more." Helena pulled out a police report. "Monica has a brother, Tony. He's in prison for medical fraud, forging prescriptions." The pieces were falling into place, painting a horrible picture. "When does he get out?" I asked. Helena smiled. 3 months, right before the Met Gala. 3 years after my father abandoned me, I stood in front of a mirror in a blood-red gown that cost more than most people made in a year. My face was on magazine covers worldwide. My name was known in every fashion capital. I was untouchable. Helena walked in, looking stunning in white. "Ready?" she asked. "The Met Gala," I said, still not quite believing it. "I'm actually going. As my guest, as one of the most famous models in the world." Helena's smile was sharp. "Your father bought a table. He'll be there with Monica and their son." "And Tony?" "Released yesterday, very angry with his sister, very willing to help us for the right price." I turned to look at Helena. Over these 3 years, she'd become more than a mentor. She was the mother figure I'd lost, but I knew her help came with a price. "What happens after tonight?" I asked. "After tonight, your father loses everything. His reputation, his company, his freedom if Monica confesses." "And what do you get?" Helena's eyes were cold. "Justice, finally." The Met Gala was exactly as spectacular as I'd imagined. Cameras flashed as Helena and I walked the carpet together. Photographers screamed my name. I was no longer the abandoned daughter. I was Camila Rodriguez Fernandez, supermodel, icon, untouchable. Inside the venue, I saw him immediately. My father, older and grayer, standing next to Monica. She was dripping in jewels he probably bought with money that should have been mine. And between them, holding Monica's hand, was a little boy about 3 years old. My half-brother, the son my father chose over me. Samuel saw me and went completely pale. Monica followed his gaze and her face drained of color too. Helena squeezed my hand. "Showtime." We walked directly to their table. Samuel stood, his mouth opening and closing like a fish. "Camilla? Is that... My God, you look different from the last time you saw me?" I kept my voice cold. "When you threw me out like garbage?" Monica gripped Samuel's arm. "Samuel, who is this woman?" She gestured to Helena. Helena smiled like a shark. "You don't know? I'm Helena Rodriguez, the woman your husband destroyed 10 years ago." She turned to Samuel. "Hello, Samuel. Surprised to see me? I'm the co-chair of the event. I decide who gets in, who gets thrown out." Samuel's face was red. "Helena, let's not do this here." "Why not?" I asked. "Afraid people will know the truth about what you did to her? What you did to me?" People at nearby tables were starting to stare. Monica looked panicked. "Samuel, let's go," she hissed, trying to pull him away. But then Helena said something that made Monica freeze. "Before you run, Monica, shouldn't you tell everyone what you did? About the hospital? About Camilla's mother?" Monica's eyes went wide with terror. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Really? Because I have medical records, shift schedules. You were working the night Aria Fernandez died. You had access to her IV medications." "You're insane." Monica's voice was rising, attracting more attention. Samuel grabbed Helena's arm. "That's enough. Get your hands off her," I said, my voice deadly quiet. He let go, looking at me like I was a stranger. In a way, I was. "Camilla, baby, I know I made mistakes," he started. "Don't call me that. Don't you ever call me that." Monica suddenly stood up, her face crumbling. "You don't understand. She wouldn't stop. Your mother wouldn't stop calling, threatening to expose everything." "Monica, shut up!" Samuel grabbed her, but she pushed him away. I just gave her something to help her calm down, just something to help her sleep. Tears were streaming down Monica's face now. "I didn't mean for her heart to stop. It was supposed to just make her quiet." The entire room seemed to freeze. Security was already moving toward us, but I couldn't look away from Monica's face as she realized what she'd just confessed. "You killed her," I whispered. "You actually killed my mother." Samuel lunged for Monica, trying to cover her mouth, but it was too late. A man in a security uniform stepped forward, and I realized it wasn't security at all. It was Tony, Monica's brother. "Hello, sister," he said coldly. Monica screamed. Tony pulled out his phone. You let me rot in prison while you lived like a queen. But Mom told me everything before she died. Everything." He pressed play, and an old woman's voice filled the air. "Monica gave that woman something. She told me it was just to make her sleep, but I know my daughter. I know what she's capable of." The recording went on, detailing how Monica had deliberately overdosed my mother with medication, how she'd covered it up, how she'd planned it for weeks. Monica collapsed. Samuel tried to run, but actual security blocked his path. Police were already entering the venue. Helena stood there, calm and victorious. "It's over, Samuel. Everything you built on lies and stolen dreams, gone." I couldn't move, couldn't process what was happening. My mother hadn't just died. She'd been murdered by the woman my father brought into our home, and had he known? "Please." Samuel grabbed my arm. "Camilla, please, I didn't know. I swear I didn't know she killed your mother." "Liar," I said simply. "I'm your father." Helena laughed, a cold, bitter sound. "Should we tell her, Samuel, or should I?" I looked between them. "Tell me what?" Helena pulled out an envelope from her purse. "I've been holding on to this for 6 months, waiting for the right moment." "What is that?" "A DNA test, from hospital records at your birth." She handed it to me. "Samuel isn't your biological father." The world stopped spinning. I couldn't breathe. "That's impossible!" Samuel shouted. "Your mother had an affair right before you were born," Helena continued, her voice gentle now. "With my husband." I stared at her, at this woman who'd saved me, trained me, turned me into someone powerful. "You're my—" I couldn't finish. "Stepdaughter, technically, though my husband died before you were born, so he never knew." Helena's eyes were wet. "When I found you in that park, I was just looking for revenge against Samuel. Then I ran the DNA test to be sure, and everything changed." Samuel was shaking his head. No, that's not— Aria wouldn't—" "Aria fell in love with someone else," Helena said quietly. "Someone who treated her better than you ever did. But he died, and she stayed with you because she thought it was the right thing to do. For Camilla." The police were handcuffing Monica, who was sobbing hysterically. Samuel was being questioned. Their son was crying, confused and scared. And I was standing there, my entire identity shattered. Helena touched my face gently. "I should have told you sooner, but you needed to be strong enough first. You needed to see what you were capable of." "Did my mother know?" I whispered. "About your husband?" "She loved him, really loved him. But when he died, she chose to raise you with Samuel, hoping he'd be the father you deserved." Helena's voice cracked. "She made the wrong choice, and it cost her everything." I watched as they led Monica away. Watched Samuel desperately trying to explain himself to police. Watched his empire crumbling in real time, as news spread through the room, as phones came out, as the story went viral before my eyes. This was what revenge looked like. Complete destruction. So why did I feel so empty? Helena and I sat on the steps outside the venue long after everyone had left. The sun was starting to rise, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. "I thought I'd feel better," I said quietly, "seeing him lose everything." "Revenge never feels the way we think it will," Helena replied. "Monica's going to prison. Dad's company is collapsing. Their son is in foster care." I looked at my hands. That little boy didn't do anything wrong, and now his whole life is destroyed. "That's not your fault, Camilla. Isn't it? If I hadn't come back, if we hadn't exposed everything, then your mother's killer would have gone free. Then Samuel would have continued profiting from his crimes. Then that little boy would have grown up with murderers as parents." Helena took my hand. "You did the right thing." Did I? Or did I just become like them? Using people for revenge? Helena was quiet for a long moment. "I saved you because I wanted to destroy Samuel. That's true. But somewhere along the way, you became more than a weapon to me. You became family." I looked at this woman who'd given me everything: power, success, justice, and apparently blood ties I'd never known about. "What happens now?" I asked. Now, you decide. You can walk away from all of this, from me, from the fashion world, from everything. Helena's voice was steady. Or you can stay, build something new, something that's not about revenge. What about that little boy, my half-brother? Helena raised an eyebrow. What about him? He's 3 years old, he's innocent, and he's in foster care because of what we did. You want to help him? Helena sounded surprised. Someone should. He's family, even if it's complicated. I stood up, looking at the sunrise. I was abandoned once, left with nothing. If Helena Rodriguez hadn't found me, I turned to her. Maybe I can be that person for him, someone who shows up when everyone else walks away. Helena smiled, and for the first time, it reached her eyes. You're stronger than all of them, Camilla. Stronger than Samuel. Stronger than Monica. Maybe even stronger than me. I learned from the best, I said. We stood there together, watching the city wake up. Somewhere out there, my father was being interrogated by police. Monica was in a cell, finally facing justice for what she'd done to my mother. And a little boy was waking up in a strange place, wondering where his parents had gone. My phone buzzed. Messages were flooding in. The story had broken worldwide. Supermodel exposes father's dark secrets at Met Gala. Fashion icon reveals murder cover-up. The revenge that shook the industry. I was famous before. Now I was legendary, but not for the reasons I'd imagined. You know what the strangest part is? I said to Helena. I spent 3 years becoming powerful enough to destroy him, but in the end, he destroyed himself. Monica couldn't handle the pressure and confessed. Tony brought the evidence. All I did was show up. Sometimes that's all it takes, Helena said. Showing up, being present, being the person who refuses to disappear. I thought about my mother, who'd loved me enough to stay in a loveless marriage. About Helena's husband, my biological father, who never got to meet me. About Samuel, who chose pride and greed over his daughter. About Monica, who chose murder over losing her comfortable life. And I thought about that little boy, who didn't choose any of this. I want to meet him, I said suddenly. My half-brother. Whatever happens with custody, I want him to know he has family, real family, the kind that doesn't abandon you when things get hard. Helena nodded. I'll make the calls. We'll do this right. As we walked back to her car, I took one last look at the Met Gala venue. 3 years ago, I was sleeping in parks, abandoned and forgotten. Tonight, I'd walked through those doors as one of the most powerful people in the room. But the real power, I was starting to realize, wasn't in revenge. It wasn't in fame or success or watching your enemies fall. The real power was in choosing who you became after the worst happened to you, in refusing to let cruelty make you cruel, in showing up for someone else the way you wished someone had shown up for you. My father taught me what kind of person I didn't want to be. Helena taught me how to be strong. And my mother, wherever she was, had loved me enough to protect me even through her death. Now it was my turn to decide what kind of person I would choose to be. Not the abandoned daughter, not the revenge weapon, not the supermodel or the icon or the headlines, just Camilla, whoever that meant, whatever that would become. And for the first time in 3 years, that felt like enough. Monica's in prison serving 15 years for my mother's murder. Samuel lost his company, his reputation, and his freedom. He's facing conspiracy charges and fraud investigations that'll keep him in court for years. And that little boy? His name is Leo, and he's living with Helena and me now. Turns out being a big sister is harder than being a supermodel, but it's also better. Way better. Sometimes the family you choose is more powerful than the one you're born into. Sometimes revenge isn't about destroying someone else, it's about refusing to let them destroy you. If this story shocked you, and I know it did, drop a comment telling me which twist got you the most. Was it Monica's confession? The DNA reveal? Tony showing up with that recording? Let me know. And hit that subscribe button because next week I'm telling you about what Monica said when I visited her in prison. What she told me about my mother's last moments will absolutely haunt you. Also, If you've ever been abandoned, if you've ever had to rebuild yourself from nothing, share your story in the comments. You're not alone. And trust me, you're stronger than you think. See you next time.